I've always believed that a marriage of mutual respect, while outwardly harmonious, is perhaps the most precarious kind. For 3 years my marriage to Julian Mo fit this description perfectly. How to describe Julian? Tall, impeccably handsome, witty and wealthy. His face, with its sharp, defined jawline, complemented a physique honed by discipline. In public, his demeanor was unfailingly gracious, his interactions warm and charming. He was attentive, considerate, the epitome of the ideal modern man, almost flawless in every way. Except for one crucial detail. He didn't love me. Just moments ago, at our college reunion dinner, he had carefully peeled shrimp one by one, arranging them on my plate with a gentle smile, urging me to eat them while they were hot. It drew admiring glances and whispered compliments from everyone around us, painting a picture of a perfect, loving husband. But now, as the last classmate waved goodbye and walked away, the hand that had so recently held mine in a public display of affection was withdrawn, effortlessly and without a second thought. The autumn evening air was cool, carrying the scent of fallen leaves. He shrugged off his tailored jacket, placing it solicitously around my shoulders. He looked at me, his gaze polite but distant, and said softly, "Sylvia, she's back." Ours was a commercial marriage, orchestrated by our families. A single sentence from our elders, "You two are well suited." And after just one meeting we were quickly married. Julian had been upfront from the start. During that first meeting he confessed he was in love with someone else. His college sweetheart Luna Lu. The age-old adversary of passionate love I've found is suitability. Julian was a suitable match for marriage. And equally in his eyes I was a suitable wife. We had navigated 3 years of this arrangement with careful, polite distance. But Luna's return had struck a chord deep within Julian's heart. Long dormant and simultaneously, it had landed like a stone in the quiet depths of my own, sending unsettling ripples through the calm surface. "What are your intentions?" I asked, lifting my chin, my face carefully devoid of emotion. His throat worked. A flicker of discomfort crossed his features. "I don't think I can live without her, Sylvia." My heart tightened. "Are you saying you want a divorce?" Julian's brow furrowed. His eyes widened slightly, as if my suggestion was entirely unexpected, almost absurd. "Sylvia," he said firmly, "you know that's not possible. We can't divorce." As he said, a commercial marriage is rarely one where individuals are truly free. Our union was interwoven with complex family interests, business, alliances. Maintaining the status of husband and wife was the most expedient, the most dignified, and the most profitable state for everyone involved. A bitter, almost hysterical laugh escaped me. "Then what exactly do you mean, Julian?" He looked away for a moment, then back at me, his voice lowering, adopting that carefully modulated tone he used in business negotiations. "Sylvia, you are my wife. I don't want to deceive you. What if we simply lived our own lives, without interfering with each other?" His words hung in the air, utterly shocking. The polished, refined Mr. Mo, who moved through the world with such grace and integrity, had just uttered a suggestion so callous, so utterly devoid of respect, that it took my breath away. "It seems you don't love her quite enough after all," I retorted, a sharp, cold edge in my voice. I turned to walk away, took a few steps, then spun back. Returning to stand before him, I pulled his jacket from my shoulders and threw it back at him, hitting him lightly in the face. "Julian, I have lived my entire life without sharing my possessions with others. I certainly won't be sharing a man." That night marked the first time in 3 years Julian and I truly fought. I didn't go home. I got into my small sports car and drove straight to K/V, a popular noisy bar. The midnight crowd was thick, the music pounding. I threw myself onto the dance floor, moving wildly, letting the rhythm consume me. Julian disliked loud, crowded places like this. I hadn't come here much since we married, but tonight, there was a fire in my gut, a need to burn off the pain and anger. Exhausted, I retreated to a private booth and ordered drinks. My friend Mia arrived after I called her, snatching the bottle from my hand. "Sylvia, are you crazy? Didn't you say you were trying to get pregnant just 3 months ago?" After settling into our marriage, we had focused on our careers. But 3 months ago I had finally decided I wanted a child. A piece of life that would be truly mine, maybe even shared with him. "Mr. Mo's wife looking this rough? Like you've been dumped. Pull yourself together," Mia exclaimed, looking concerned. "Dumping? I laughed, a harsh, dry sound. A marriage without love couldn't end in heartbreak or being dumped. At best, it was just a bad joke. My friends were wrong. I wasn't drinking to drown my sorrows, nor was I losing control. It was the moment I walked away from Julian and got into my car after that terrible conversation that I saw my own heart clearly. Over these 3 years of polite coexistence, of playing the part of the perfect wife, I had, against all logic and expectation, fallen in love with him. My pride, usually a fortress, was my Achilles heel. He said he couldn't live without Luna, and my heart had clenched, not out of possessiveness, but because I realized I truly cared about him. Julian found me close to 4 a.m. He grabbed my arm, pulling me to my feet. "Come home with me." He nodded curtly at Mia and my other friends. My legs were weak from drinking, but I managed to stand, stumbling slightly as I followed him out of the bar. Outside, I pulled my arm free from his grip, which had become painfully tight. Only then did I see the raw emotion on his face. His eyes were bloodshot, his white shirt damp with sweat. The anger in his gaze was barely contained. 9 hours, Sylvia. Since 8 o'clock. You didn't come home, you didn't answer your phone. Were you trying to scare me to death? His voice was ragged, filled with a fury I had never witnessed directed at me. If I hadn't seen your friend's Instagram post, I wouldn't have known where you were. Don't you know I looked for you all over the city? I was afraid you were. Afraid I would kill myself? I blurted out, cutting him off, my eyes clearing completely of any lingering drunkenness. Julian, you might not be that important. He looked stunned, lost for words. But he said nothing more, just opened the car door and helped me inside. Back home, our housekeeper Maria was away. Julian helped me clean up, carefully wiping down my face and hands. Once I was settled in bed, he went to the kitchen and busied himself for a while. He returned with a bowl of warm millet porridge. I wasn't asleep. The sounds from the living room, the quiet domesticity of him moving around, it created an illusion, a dangerous fantasy that he was dedicatedly caring for his wife. This fleeting image tore at the fragile wall I had built around my feelings, wrenching the buried love back to the surface. "Drink this before you sleep," he said, setting the bowl down. His expression was unreadable. "I have to go to Port City. I won't be at the company celebration tomorrow." Seeing I remained silent, he hesitated, then added, "I'm going to see Luna. She went straight to Port City. She'll be back in 3 days." I didn't say a word. He left. I heard the car engine start, the accelerating roar, the sound receding into the distance until it was gone. Port City was 1,000 kilometers away. Julian was rushing, literally traveling 1,000 kilometers, just to see his heart's desire a day earlier. He was that impatient. Not a minute could wait. A burning sensation flared in my stomach. I scrambled out of bed and ran to the bathroom, vomiting until I was empty. Straightening up, I saw my reflection. Tears streamed down my face, blurring my vision. The sky outside was already bright with dawn. I went to the study, sinking into Julian's favorite armchair, mimicking the way he used to sit and read. I remembered the early days of our marriage, those quiet Saturday afternoons, him reading by the window and me beside him, stealing glances, the sunlight catching his profile, so impossibly handsome. Those days, that quiet illusion of togetherness. It felt like a lifetime ago, never to return. I slept until late afternoon and woke feeling better. The knot in my stomach eased. Perhaps the millet porridge had helped. My phone showed a new message from Julian. "Arrived safely. Don't worry." The tone was meticulously formal, like a husband reporting his whereabouts on a business trip. He truly had kept his word about no secrets, I thought wryly. Chuckled. A hollow sound, and promptly blocked his number. I had no desire to know anything about his whereabouts with another woman. I, Sylvia Mo, had no masochistic tendencies. I tossed the phone aside, got up, took 3 deep breaths and began to dress. 3 hours later, I was stepping into a pair of sharp, new designer boots, my face meticulously made up, driving my car towards the company celebration. Julian and I each came from families with their own businesses. After our marriage, we had co-founded a new enterprise, Evergreen Innovations, a joint investment. I usually spent less time at the office focusing on other ventures, but when I wanted to, I could shift instantly from Mrs. Mo to CEO Mo. I arrived at the celebration alone, outwardly radiant and confident, navigating the room with practiced ease, yet my thoughts frequently wandered. I kept telling myself that if I just stayed busy I could return to being the person I was before him. But images kept flashing before my eyes. Julian and Luna embracing at the airport, a scene I hadn't actually witnessed, yet my mind conjured it, impossibly bright and terribly painful. The celebration was a success, immediately hitting the major news headlines. Articles called me a goddess entrepreneur. Of course, there were other voices, pointing out Julian's absence, speculating that our marriage was already a sham. I saw the bold headlines on my phone, a wry smile playing on my lips. It seemed the entertainment media were sometimes right on the mark. The rumors of our troubled marriage were soon confirmed. Someone had captured paparazzi photos of Julian at the airport the night of the celebration, embracing a woman wearing dark sunglasses. That woman clearly was not me. The media went wild. My heart strangely remained calm. It was Julian who should be panicking, not me. And indeed, the next evening he returned home, his face a mask of unconcealed anger. Sylvia, why did you do that? Didn't we agree on non-interference? I told you everything. I'm practically transparent with you. Sylvia, wasn't it better to just maintain our peaceful marriage? He was accusing me, implying I had orchestrated the paparazzi to expose him and Luna. A sharp, humorless laugh escaped me. Love can blind a person, Julian. You're lost in it. But I've always been clear-headed. Your peaceful marriage, as you call it, was the greatest form of disrespect to me, and I would never stoop to using the kind of methods you're suggesting against her. She's not worth it. Julian's chest rose and fell rapidly. I apologize, Sylvia. I wasn't thinking clearly just now. But please, don't talk about Luna that way. She's a good person. A good person willingly plays the role of a mistress? I scoffed. Julian was speechless, his clenched fists slowly relaxing. That's because she loves me deeply. He looked at me then, his eyes hardening, a chilling resolve settling in them. I won't let anyone hurt Luna. Anyone. He turned and left, leaving me almost collapsing onto the sofa. For the first time, I saw something in Julian's eyes directed not at Luna, but at me. A profound, aching sorrow for her. He didn't just love Luna. He felt pity for her. That kind of deep, protective tenderness was something he had never shown me. Yet, even in that moment, a part of me still foolishly yearned for it. Out of a strange, morbid curiosity, I found myself wanting to see this Luna. This woman who held such power over him. The entertainment headlines about Julian were quickly suppressed. A simple matter for someone with his influence. He didn't even ask for my cooperation this time. Perhaps, having insulted the woman he loved, he was holding a quiet grudge. He came home less and less frequently. At the company, though, he remained the charming, affable Mr. Mo. When we worked together or appeared in public, our performance as a loving couple was flawless. It seemed our marriage had reached the harmonious state he desired, but I felt I was teetering on the edge of collapse. I wrestled with myself for days. Every time he didn't come home, I would imagine him with Luna, the intimacy, the shared moments. My heart felt like it had a gaping hole, a raw wound that throbbed, making it hard to breathe. Perhaps I wasn't as strong as I thought. Luna's detailed profile sat on my desk, but I couldn't bring myself to pick up the phone and call her. I didn't know what I was afraid of. Maybe I was afraid that seeing her I would understand, that I would see they were truly meant to be together, a match made in heaven, while I was just an imposition. After all, Julian loved her deeply, profoundly. Nevertheless, I did meet Luna. She contacted me herself. She was different from what I'd imagined. Her hair was long and dark, cascading down her back. She was undeniably pretty, with a delicate, almost fragile air about her. But her eyes held an unmistakable challenge. She wasted no time on pleasantries. If it weren't for you, she began, her voice soft but direct, Julian and my child would be 4 years old now. I sipped my coffee calmly, showing no reaction. Miss Liu, I said, my voice level, if you invited me here to reminisce about painful hypotheticals, there's no need. We share no common memories. She smiled, a saccharine expression that didn't reach her eyes. Julian respects you very much. He says you are truly impeccable. Being praised by the woman my husband loved felt like sandpaper against a wound. I do have my flaws, I countered, my voice cool. For one, I'm simply incapable of making a man my entire world. Her smile wavered, then returned, sweeter than before. But I'm pregnant again now. Miss Mu, what do you think I should do? My hand paused, the spoon hovering over my coffee cup. I glanced involuntarily at her stomach. That, I said, meeting her gaze, seems like a question for the child's father. I've already had an abortion. I looked up startled. Luna was smiling, a strange triumphant look on her face, as if she hadn't just lost a pregnancy. Because I didn't want to trouble Julian, she explained, her voice soft, imbued with a performance of deep sacrifice. You can call me a mistress, you can belittle my character. Think whatever you want. But I am better suited for Julian. I submit to him. He feels happy when he's with me. I don't cause him any trouble. Even when I was pregnant, I didn't tell him because I know he can't get divorced right now, and I don't want to become a liability for him, a burden. She spoke with such apparent sincerity, portraying herself as the ultimate selfless lover, that my stomach churned. I felt a wave of nausea, wanting to vomit right there in the elegant cafe. I didn't come here hoping you would divorce him, she finished, her voice quiet but intense. I just wanted you to know. I can lose everything for Julian. I love him, Miss Mo. More than you can ever imagine. I listened in silence, then dropped the spoon into my cup with a small clink. I looked at her again, my eyes clear and steady. In that case, I said, a cool, dismissive note in my voice, you truly are quite a match. I still remember the flicker of anger that crossed Luna's face when I said, quite a match. She had heard the subtle mockery, the undertone of confident dismissal. She was smarter than I had initially given her credit for, more calculating, but her tactics were still limited. Nevertheless, I had to admit that the depth of sacrifice she claimed she could make for Julian was something I honestly couldn't see myself doing. I couldn't be the delicate, submissive woman she described. I couldn't lose myself for a man. Couldn't twist myself into knots trying to please him. Couldn't be consumed by insecurity or jealousy. Certainly couldn't love him to the point of self-destruction. I wanted to tell Luna that what she described wasn't love, not true healthy love. But perhaps Julian, astute as he was, genuinely wanted exactly that kind of woman. I had come to the meeting feeling angry, but after seeing Luna, the anger had faded, replaced by a weary resignation. I no longer wanted to fight. Feeling restless, I called Mia and we met up. I returned home late, around 10 o'clock. The lights were on in the living room. Julian sat on the sofa, his suit jacket rumpled. Several bottles lined the coffee table. Most were empty. He heard me come in and lifted his head, his eyes unfocused. He was drunk. Julian rarely drank heavily and was always disciplined. He once told me nothing in this world was worth getting drunk over. Seeing me, he struggled to stand, but stumbled and fell back onto the sofa. I instinctively reached out to steady him. He seized my hand, pulling me towards him, and I landed awkwardly on top of him. His breath, heavy with alcohol, washed over me and his mouth found mine. Julian kissed me with a desperate, almost violent hunger suffocating me. We had been intimate countless times in our marriage, but he had never been so unrestrained, so aggressively demanding, like he wanted to devour me whole. My heart pounded, a dizzying mix of fear and a strange, undeniable response. Then he whispered a name against my lips. Luna. That single word slammed me back to reality, like a bucket of ice water thrown onto hot metal. A hiss of pain, a cloud of scalding steam searing my insides. In that moment I cursed myself. Sylvia, wake up. I pushed myself away from him, struggling to regain my composure. Julian had slumped back onto the sofa, fallen into a deep drunken sleep, mumbling incoherently. Though I couldn't make out the words, the very sounds he made resonated with profound sorrow. He was grieving perhaps for the child Luna had lost, but more likely for the fact that he couldn't have her, that he was trapped in a marriage to me. I found a blanket and covered him. I went to the kitchen and made a pot of millet porridge just like he had done for me that night I was at the bar. I mirrored every action he had taken for me, a final act of spousal duty. Then I left. I drove to Mia's place and stayed the night. I confessed everything to Mia. She was furious. Sylvia, are you crazy? This was your chance. You should have just gotten pregnant. Once you have his child, not even God himself could separate you. Mia was pragmatic, advocating for securing my position as Julian's wife by any means necessary. She was right, of course. Given the family structures and the immense business interests at stake, if we had a child, our families would do everything to keep us together, regardless of Julian's feelings. But without one, while it would be disruptive, They would eventually allow a divorce for the sake of their heir's happiness or public image, as long as the benefits were managed. I knew this, but I shook my head firmly. Mia, I can't do that. Mia wiped a tear from her eye. I know you can't. I was just kidding. But Julian, is he blind? Is he insane? She vented her anger at Julian for a long time. I listened strangely amused. We talked late into the night. I started feeling a dull ache in my lower abdomen. When I went to the bathroom, my underwear was stained with blood. A sharp, piercing pain shot through me. Mia rushed me to the hospital. The doctor told me I was over 2 months pregnant. I was stunned. I had only started trying to conceive a month ago. Counting backward, the timing aligned with my last intimacy with Julian. Then a wave of self-recrimination washed over me. I hadn't paid attention to my cycle. I had drunk so much alcohol that night at the bar. But the doctor shook his head. The embryo's heartbeat had stopped. It hadn't developed properly. I underwent the procedure. Lying on the cold operating table, I felt as if they were not just taking away an unformed child, but cutting away the very last tie that bound me to Julian. I stayed at Mia's for a week, cutting off all contact with the outside world, trying to clear my head. Mia hesitantly shared news she'd heard. That Julian and Luna had gone on a trip together. Sylvia. Mia's voice was laced with frustration. I don't understand why you won't let me tell him about the baby. There's no need, I said, my voice firm. My life has nothing to do with Julian anymore. I said it to Mia, but I said it to myself, cementing the decision. Just then, Evergreen Innovations faced a crisis. Someone fabricated claims that our new project's raw materials were faulty, using online trolls to manipulate public opinion. The company's reputation was being savaged. I tried to contact Julian, unblocking his number, but couldn't reach him. I threw myself into damage control, working late into the night. I was leaving the office, trying his number again. This time it connected. But just as he answered, a small delivery truck swerved towards me, hurtling directly at my car. The distance was terrifyingly close. I felt the rush of air before impact. And I heard Julian's voice through the phone, a raw, desperate roar. Sylvia, move. That was the last sound Julian's voice carried to me before everything went black. I didn't die. Julian, hearing my location, had somehow raced towards me, crashing his car violently into the truck, diverting its path just enough to save my life. He was lucky. Only his left arm was broken, nothing life-threatening. But he remained unconscious, the doctor saying he would wake up in time. The accident, clearly not accidental, drew the attention of both our families. My father and Julian's father were furious. It turned out the mastermind behind the crash was a small business owner, and more shockingly, he was Luna's uncle. I began to understand perhaps why Julian had fought so desperately to save me. Regardless, I needed to hear it from him. 2 days later, he woke. The moment he saw me, he struggled to sit up. I walked to his bedside and gently pushed him back down. Thank you, I said quietly, for saving me. His voice was rough, raspy. I'm sorry, Sylvia. Are you apologizing for your girlfriend, Julian? His eyes were red-rimmed. His jaw trembled with emotion. You know. I took a deep breath. Listen to me, Julian. I'm only saying this once. I looked him directly in the eye. She tried to kill me. You saved me. A life for a life. We are now even. We no longer owe each other anything. We don't need to test each other anymore. You don't need to strain yourself maintaining this ridiculous harmony. I'm tired. I've had enough. I lifted my chin slightly, a small genuine smile touching my lips. Julian, let's get a divorce. I took out the divorce papers I had prepared, signed them in front of him, and placed them on his bedside table. I didn't look at him again as I left the room. I practically ran from the hospital, stepping onto the bustling street, and exhaled deeply. Saying those words, signing the papers, felt like shedding a heavy burden. There was an empty space in my chest where my heart used to ache, but the exhaustion was gone. I pulled out my phone and texted Mia. She called immediately. That idiot Julian. Mia swore, her voice full of outrage. Mia, I need you to do me a favor. Mia listened, silent for a long moment. Finally, her voice thick with unshed tears, she said, Sylvia, you're a big idiot too. That night, news of my divorce from Julian spread like wildfire, hitting the top of the trending lists, completely overshadowing the negative press about Evergreen Innovations. Public anger shifted, turning squarely on me. After all, Julian had just risked his life to save mine, and I was divorcing him while he was still in the hospital. My parents and Julian's parents called repeatedly. I gave them the same simple statement. It's over. We're ending things peacefully. Soon my phone was inundated with calls from reporters and strangers. I changed my number. I decided to leave the city for a while to escape the storm and clear my head. I drove south, further and further, hoping the distance would somehow lessen the pain left behind in that city. 2 weeks later, in a hotel room in Xiamen, I was packing a bag, planning to visit the beach. I opened the door and Julian was standing there. I gasped, stumbling back, thinking I was dreaming. Julian reached out, grabbed my arm and pulled me into the room, slamming the door shut behind him. His grip on my wrist was painful and the fragile peace I had found over the past 2 weeks shattered, replaced by a surge of anger. He had no right to be here, no right to be angry. I hadn't pursued his mistress. I've been looking for you for 14 days, Sylvia. You're unbelievable. His face was red, contorted with frustration, his words tumbling out unevenly. What are you doing here? You should be in the hospital. I never said I wanted a divorce, Julian retorted, pulling the 2 copies of the divorce papers from his pocket. With his good hand, he clutched them, using his other, injured hand to tear them apart, one sheet at a time, until they were just fluttering scraps of paper he scattered on the carpet. Only then did I truly look at him. His face was gaunt, covered in stubble. His eyes were bloodshot, utterly lacking the polished confidence of the Mr. Mo I knew. Julian, I said, my voice quiet but firm. I do get angry. My emotions were a chaotic storm. A wave of inexplicable hurt washed over me. I clutched my chest. Do you really think I'm some kind of goddess who doesn't care about anything? Do you think I didn't hurt when you were saying Luna's name over and over in front of me? Did you think I, Sylvia Mu, should just be magnanimous? Just accept your ridiculous proposal of an open marriage? Sylvia, are you in love with me? Julian's eyes were red-rimmed, his voice hoarse as he interrupted me, stepping closer. I fell silent, turning my back to him, refusing to let him see the tears welling in my eyes. That was my last shred of pride. I wiped my face quickly, then turned back to him, forcing a calm expression. Maybe, I said honestly. Maybe I was. You're right, you were always honest with me. So I'll be honest too. Maybe I loved you. So what? It would only give him another chance to hurt or humiliate me. Since you're out of the hospital, perfect. We'll go back tomorrow and finalize the divorce. I pulled my suitcase, indicating for him to move. But Julian stood rooted to the spot. I watched stunned as tears welled in his eyes and spilled down his cheeks. I had seen Julian angry, seen him hurt, but I had never seen him look so genuinely remorseful, so utterly vulnerable, so deeply in love. Sylvia, I'm sorry. I can't lose you. I love you. His chest heaved with emotion, a desperate hope in his eyes. We can't get divorced. The thought of losing. I can't breathe. I was blind, Sylvia. I never saw it clearly. There's nothing between me and Luna now. Sylvia, I truly love you. Do you believe me? I was completely stunned. It felt like an eternity passed before I finally spoke. I believe you. He looked overjoyed, reaching out to embrace me, but my next word stopped him dead. But I don't love you anymore, I said, meeting his gaze directly, truthfully. Just like you don't love Luna anymore. I don't know if Julian had some epiphany or if he was simply losing his mind, but after that night in Xiamen, he stuck to me like glue. I had no desire to continue my trip. His sudden, fervent confession hadn't moved me to tears of joy, only unsettled me deeply. Unexpectedly, the media frenzy stopped. Julian must have pulled strings. All the trending posts cursing me were suppressed, replaced by a handwritten, deeply emotional love letter from Julian that went viral. News reached me that Luna's uncle, the one who hired the truck, had been arrested, along with his backers. They were facing serious consequences, their businesses ruined. Julian, when he decided to be ruthless, was terrifying. When I returned home, my in-laws immediately arrived. Julian's father, a former military man, landed a swift kick to Julian's leg, chewing him out mercilessly. His mother fussed over me, heartbroken, her eyes full of tears. I found myself comforting my mother-in-law while trying to restrain my father-in-law, reminding him Julian was still recovering. He didn't need another trip to the hospital. After the dramatic scene subsided and they left, my parents arrived. Julian almost fell to his knees before them. My father didn't say much to Julian but criticized me for being too impulsive. Still, I could hear his underlying frustration with Julian. As my mother left, she quietly squeezed my hand, her eyes red-rimmed. "My daughter has suffered," she whispered. "As long as you've thought it through, your father and I support whatever decision you make." My parents' unwavering support sent a wave of warmth through my heart, long frozen. Despite the complex family interests involved, their priority was always my well-being. After everyone was gone, I sank onto the sofa, exhaling shakily. Julian stood awkwardly nearby, still looking like a wrongdoer awaiting sentencing, yet clinging to a desperate hope of clemency. "Sylvia," he said, his voice quiet. "After Luna came back, I didn't touch her." He looked at me. "The child she lost. It wasn't mine." I looked at him, a slight sadness in my eyes. "I know." His mouth opened slightly in surprise. You knew." "Her little tricks are nothing compared to the real world," I said softly. "When I was doing market research for Evergreen, she was still in college, playing at being in love." "But why didn't you tell me? Why did you still leave me?" he asked, his voice laced with desperation. A surge of frustration hit me. "Julian Mo, you were so blind to the people around you. If you couldn't even see that, you didn't deserve to be my husband." I gave a small weary smile. "Love can blind a person. Who knows if you loved her enough to be willing to raise another man's child for her sake? You were trapped in your own emotions you couldn't see clearly. What use would it have been for me to drag you out?" Julian covered his face with his hand, his body shaking with muffled sobs. "I'm sorry. Thur. Is it too late now? I'm awake now. Let me pull you. Don't leave me." "Julian Mo," I said firmly, looking him in the eye. "I accept your apology. But understand this clearly, we can't go back to how things were. You understand that, don't you?" The flicker of hope in his eyes dimmed, extinguishing entirely. He awkwardly rubbed his hands together. "Then, can we just not divorce? Just stay like before?" I looked at him, the disappointment in my eyes unconcealed. Every moment of the before you yearn for is a moment I never want to relive. I took a deep breath, standing tall. Fortunately, that before is about to end. "Julian Mo, what's done is done. There's no turning back. I learned how to wait for love for a while, but my patience has limits. Those years are over." A feeling of immense freedom washed over me. I smiled, a genuine, unburdened smile. "Good thing it's not too late. I'm so relieved. I'm finally free." "Mr. Mo," I said, my voice clear and decisive. "Tomorrow 9 o'clock. See you at the Civil Affairs Bureau."